whatsoever about Clinton Incorporated as an enterprise, and he was completely clear-eyed and relentless about the Clintons' departures from progressive values. And that was, it was a tough time to do that at the magazine in a lot of ways. Certainly a contentious time. And I learned a lot from that.
Yeah, well, always in those circumstances, the hardest time for intellectual courage is when you have to be tough on your friends, and
Yeah.
that's really the time when traditions like the Nation are most valued, and I think it's when a guy like Doug distinguished himself the most.
I guess I would just, two other things that are somewhat different from mine. One was that any time I needed to find like a place to take someone for a drink or a meal that was a little out of the order, Doug knew exactly where it was I should go. There are certain watering hole and food destinations in this town that I still have for certain kinds of occasions because of Doug. That's very important. But also a different kind of courage, which is the physical courage of someone who struggled so much with physical disability as he did. And I think that was a source of both integrity and also of a source of suffering, but also was part of his skepticism, his inherent skepticism of perceived authority. To do with that.
Any thoughts?
Well, I met Dougie many years ago when he was working for the Soho News. This one dude I had a marijuana store at 6 Bleecker Street. And this one dude who wasn't, the smartest dude in the world because he had, gotten mugged trying to buy pot in Union Square Park late at night because we were closed. He brought Dougie around. So then Dougie started bringing everybody from the Soho News around. And then when pay time came at the Soho News, they'd all come over to 6 Bleecker and buy pot with their money. And, I only had a 33% markup at the time. So, everybody was really getting a super deal because I didn't realize in Storm the normal retail markup was 100%. So I became Dougie's pot connection and alcohol enabler. And then...
What was it a store that looked like something else? Or
No, it was a loft at 6 Bleecker, about a 500-foot loft. Yeah. And then the rips came, so I had to put double doors on with tear gas in the middle. So it was a wild time back then on Bleecker Street. And I became friends with Dougie, and I admired. Then he went to work for the Village Voice, and he had some kind of thing where he exposed his boss's wife, Jane Amsterdam. So Dougie really didn't. He was a revolutionary because he didn't give a fuck whether he lived or died. He went up against the Muzzies, and told them and said, "Hey, what you're doing to gay people is wrong." And he had somebody from could speak Farsi. Translating articles from Iran, and they take this stuff seriously, but it didn't faze Dougie one way or the other. Of course, Dougie hated religion because of what Christian Science did to him. That somebody sent the article where he got the last polio shot. He was the last one to get polio. I'm sorry. I couldn't even think of something like that. It wouldn't, and so he progressively lost muscular control year after year, and it was like compound interest, because he'd lose 5% one year, then he'd only have 95% left. So it was like, it would be 5% of 95. And, so eventually, it overtook him, essentially, and I was surprised he lived as long as he did. Because before he died, he was really flipping out. He thought there was all kinds of twigs in his pot. So I had to go over there and show him that you could crumple it up like this, and twigs wouldn't disintegrate, between my two fingers. Otherwise, there'd be no trees, there'd be no vegetation. And then he had all this pot he hadn't smoked. So I had to take the pot and then grind it up and give it to him a little at a time. And so, you could see that Dougie was losing it with this twigs. There's twigs in there. When there was no twigs, it was Sensimilla. And I knew Dougie in Paris. And, I knew Hervé, who died of AIDS. If he would have lived a little longer, it would have been a manageable thing. And Hervé was a sweet guy. He was such a nice guy. He loved women, he loved men. And, he came from a very strict French family, a very normal French family. And so that was a great blow to Dougie when Hervé died. So when I got out of jail, for allegedly selling over a ton of marijuana, it wasn't a ton, it was more than a ton, but, so they lied about that. Dougie was going to get me a job in Gristedes, which was cool, but I got a job with the Jewish Museum, so, it was better than sweeping floors.
What's your name?
A.J. Weberman. And, it was, I really cried when Dougie died.
Yeah.
I loved him,
I cried
He was a wonderful guy.
I felt like I hadn't really fulfilled a friendship. It's been too long since I've really been involved with him, and there's plenty of people in your life who need help, who you do extend yourself for, and for whatever reason, it wasn't one. And it could easily have been. I mean, you ought to have been on the top of my list, but I just don't, and I don't really have an explanation for it, except that it wasn't that easy to do. But still, part of the reason for crying at the time was just a regret for having not helped to make his life better.
So, I had fights with Dougie too, like wrestling matches, but he'd win because he'd burn me with a cigar.
But everybody knows to beat you with the cigar trick. You want to turn it?
Okay, my name is Nonette. I met Dougie through AJ, who happened to be my husband. I was at the time with the Philippine mission to the UN as a diplomat, and I was amazed at the stories that he told. One story that I remember him telling is that he was Isabel Allende was his girlfriend, and I was just really Dougie, knowing at that time he had already come out of the closet. So, and when it comes to the left, I learned a lot about American left from him, and of course not only in the U.S. but also in France and the other countries of the world. He knew a lot about the Philippines, but obviously I knew more about the left in the Philippines. But every time you discuss matters with him, he gives you respect, although I realized that, he didn't really believe in the government that I was representing at that time, Mrs. Aquino. So there was a lot of comments, but I learned to, it was a professional thing.
No one was fair.
Yeah, but he was fair. He was fair. I mean, so, and the one thing I remember about Dougie always saying, drink Hervé, Hervé, drink. So now between AJ and when he wants me to drink, he would say, drink Hervé. So that's like.
I mean, like John was saying, there's just a memory bank filled with anecdotes, but so much of these are relating to his rather out of control conduct, and not enough really speak to his
true, true.
His last letter to the nation was about 3 years ago. Bob Grossman had done this caricature of, when the book came out, saying that Abe Lincoln might be gay. Bob Grossman had done a caricature of Lincoln as dressed as a Victorian woman with a big bust and silk stockings. And it was a great caricature of a bearded lady, and called Babe Lincoln. And, Doug sent a letter that the idea that to be gay is to be a man in a woman's body or a woman in a man's body is so out of date. The nation's editors just don't get it. And it's a good letter, and I was starting to say.
And maybe the gentleman who came in the back there.
You arrived just a little after we started, and none of us really have been assigned anything. We were all in the same boat. We were just friends, and we're sharing memories. Did you want to contribute?
Well, I am trying to, but anyway, everybody who's taught has had personal connection. And I can't say I have, but I think that being present is what I took from the KC audit was giving attention to the memorial and what was his connection with my interests, the Lions competitions too, we gave them was amazing. And the Western Constitution with so many, so much history of the war that I personally missed out on for the age of this. And especially the connection that Bella has with campaigns. I found that benefit really from I found that interesting.
Jeffrey?
When he was running Bella's campaign against Bill Ryan, she was trying to get, or she got the seat that came. Ryan was rumored to have throat cancer, and Dougie would show up at the Lion's Head, and I'd say, Doug, what's going on with Bill Ryan? What's going on with the campaign? And so he would lift up his coat label, and under it was a button saying, vote for Bella, a voice and not a whisper. Ryan couldn't talk at this point.
Oh, no.
No holds barred. Jeffrey, in the same position that you are, he didn't know him personally, but he was very influenced by his writing and just wanted to come and show respect and hear a little bit more about the story of this person's life. But I think that's indicative of the impact that he had. There are people who would come who didn't know him, but who were affected by the power of his voice and his life, as we all were.
And it's very interesting because I said that I didn't know the man's age, and I just by reading his work, I thought he was like maybe 30 years of age, and I never questioned his sexual orientation because I assumed if he's writing about gay life, he's gay, which sounds like he wasn't. Maybe he was. Okay, but he was, but he was married.
I think,
No, no.
I think that was his.
That was his last woman he had sexual intercourse with, was, who was it, Letelier's, Isabel Letelier?
If it's true.
No, it's true. No, it's true. He's not, Dougie didn't make shit up. You know. He got Bella Abzug to forgive me for finding Warstock in her garbage. And we had a party for Dougie, had a birthday party, and Bella showed up. It was pretty cool.
Did you do garbology for a period?
Yeah, I did. I went through everybody's garbage. So,
But then I'd like to ask then, like, did he ask for these specific assignments to go to these countries?
No, I think we were talking before when we were saying about how influenced you were about his writings on far-flung places and gay communities in those communities. And
Mostly Paris.
at the center.
He almost got kicked out of France. Somebody jumped out a window where Dougie was present. So they came around and, he talked his way out of it.
Dougie also didn't have the money to travel. I mean, he was always asking friends to give him money.
I subsidized him for years and years with marijuana and money.
It's good for business.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely.
Even at the low margins that you were operating.
Well, the margins increased over the years. So, it was like dealing with giving, when a customer would contract HIV, AIDS, I would give them free marijuana, but they'd be so grateful that they'd recommend 10 other customers, so I'd make the money back 5 or 6 times over. Just the way it worked out, I wasn't planning on that.
I'm surprised we never hit you up for an investment in the nation. One that got away.
When I was in high school, I would read it from cover, the New Republic and the Nation, cover to cover.
We're about ready.
What's an irony?
About ready. Everything that's happened seems to me to be absolutely perfect. Could not possibly improve on it. And I know he'd be thrilled. What can I say, obviously, would enjoy it. Irony and the layers of irony. Does anyone have a final sort of thought on that?
I thought all those people showed up for Dougie across the hall. And
So did I.
saw some people I knew. And I was sitting next to Jerry Siegel, and I didn't realize he was a friend of Dougie's, and we started to talk. John
So
got
you
up to leave.
actually were having a
I was
conversation
waiting.
as if you were in the right place.
Yeah, I was. It wasn't until John got up to leave, he leaned over and said we're in the wrong place.
It's like dancing at the wrong wedding.
I, like this gentleman, was a reader of him.
And he probably valued you most. The rest of us, he's running from. Like a tax collector. Anyway, it's nice having this. Nice to be with all of you.
Thank you, Ham.
Thank you. Victor Navasky. I'll tell you later.
Like, I have Vicari 20 minutes, but yeah, right.